I would expect maybe an Annie ban to try and shut down some of the early roams. But overall, you might see a lot of focus on these AD carries, Sivir, Alistar between the two teams.
So yeah, that's where the focus is going to lie, in the bans and the first few picks initially. However, though, having the red side is an advantage when it comes to having the final counter pick. Likely Unicorns of Love will use this for the mid lane, and that's where they need to really break open this match. Because stylistically, we've went over these different roles and tried to pinpoint where the difference could be. We couldn't find an advantage in the top lane. We could have potentially found an advantage for the Unicorns in the mid lane. PowerOfEvil could shine and potentially beat Febiven. And these AD carries, they're so good at going neutral against each other in whatever matchup they end up picking, that having the counter pick there isn't really valuable. So TLDR, counter pick mid, is the way to go for Unicorns, unless there's a Victor in play.
And what Fnatic is doing then is saying, we're going to remove your safe picks, at least from the mid lane. Victor, Orianna, even the Varus has been a safe laner for PowerOfEvil, so that's full focus on him. Technically a flex, because Vardags did show the Varus pick as well.
Interesting that they take that approach where they ban out 3 mid laners while Unicorns still have the counter pick for it. Usually that's some approach I would see maybe perhaps on blue side, you know, so you have to force yourself into an unfamiliar matchup and then get counterpicked very hard. Whereas this leaves open a wealth of champions for the Unicorns. You know, they can pick their jungler, they can pick their support, which they can roam together with and get through the early to mid game.
I do really like the first pick from Fnatic on Sivir, because it's such a key pick for Vardags and Unicorns of Love. At the same time, we also see the response being, we take away Rek'Sai, he's been the main jungler for Reignover, so we're kind of stealing a little bit from each other here. Obviously 2 picks that will still benefit their own teams a lot. Fizz, is that going to be a thing for Unicorns? They banned it every time against Rocket, even on red side.
It has to be. If you prepared enough for this matchup and you know how hard you will get pressured in picks and bans, then you need to have at least the option to play Fizz. If it's not this game, perhaps next game.
I know that Lulu was banned, but it was also banned all 5 games in the quarterfinals. I'd like to track that and how it impacts the game. That Sivir point that you mentioned, Deficio, 4 out of the 5 matches Vardags played that also in that quarterfinal. With Horo locking in Rek'Sai, he's denied Reignover his highest priority comfort pick, but it's not the Elise.
No, and that's another one we need to follow. Reignover's champion pool. Will he start playing Elise? Nidalee, will it fit in what he likes to do and how he likes to play, or will he just stick to Gragas, which we've seen time and time again?
Yeah, traditionally in these positions, when Fnatic finds himself with an early game, early pick on, for example, the Sivir, then Rek'Sai gets taken away, they usually lock in Gragas here as the second pick, favored by Reignover. Performance-wise, he does better on Rek'Sai than he does on Gragas, but it does seem that he has expanded the champion pool and picked Elise. But in turn, that kind of messes with the balance. Fnatic usually run 3 carries plus 1 tank. If you go Elise, yes, you can build her with Sin Hook, but she isn't the ultimate super disengaged tank champion. This may mean that Fnatic will have to defer or change up their pattern in terms of style.
And because of the fact we normally see Huni on these carries top lane, yes, Shen is a flex pick, but I would expect it to go down bottom lane for YellowStar, depending on what we see Unicorns do. But it's very important for Fnatic to have some of these flex picks now they are on blue side, to see what Unicorns will lock in for either top or mid lane, and then you can always swap it around and potentially at least counter one of the lanes.
Yep.
We'll decide what Fnatic do in the next round of picks, but with the hover for Annie, obviously it's not going to get locked in now. There's not the focus on Hylissang's champion pool. Morgana was up and available. He's prioritized different champions. It's not what we were expecting coming into this game.
Yeah, decided not to ban the Annie, but also leave Alistar open, which technically has been the higher priority pick for him. So saying, you know what, we don't want to ban 2 supports. We don't want to first pick one either, because we're expecting or hoping to get like a Alistar Sivir. So therefore we just leave both of them, and we're gonna have to see what Hylissang can do with his roams. Change up from Vardags as well. Lucian seems to be a bit more here. You just need a, I almost want to call it a safe AD carry. You can just go even in lane, which is what he normally does, and then try and open up Hylissang.
The problem is the usual AD carries you go even with a lane are fine doing that because they offer something else for the team. When you go even in lane with Sivir, you bring on the hunt to your team and you can excel at grouping. When you go even with Lucian, you just lose. Because all you do is skirmish. We've seen Lucian picked in LPL in these heavy, very mid-game focused skirmish compositions, but that doesn't seem to be what the Unicorns are necessarily aiming for, nor do I think that's the way to beat Fnatic. Not a big fan of the Lucian pick.
It must honestly just be like Vardags. We have 2 AD carries being banned away. Even the Varus is gone in this. Oh, sorry, 2 AD carries is gone in Varus, which was the flex pick. What can you pick where you can handle yourself? And that is what he opted to go for. We need to follow Vardags and his picks through this series. Fnatic though, finally someone in Europe plays Azir. This champion is still extremely strong in the mid lane. You can build Nash's Tooth in the early game to make up for that lost attack speed on the passive, and you have a fantastic scaling into late game still. So I'm happy to see it being played, because also it's a fairly safe blind pick coming in for Febiven, if you look at what PowerOfEvil normally likes to play in that mid lane, he has the last pick, as expected.
Needs to be a whole lot of damage for him because there is not a lot, and he's going to go with that AP cog.
I don't like... See, okay, let me rephrase it this way. Usually when the Unicorns play Kog'Maw, some games they seem to be building a composition, not really knowing where they're going. I'm like, all right, let's play Kog'Maw. And then it doesn't all work together. I like it when the Unicorns play Kog'Maw, when you can see clearly that the composition they had before was building up towards that Kog'Maw. With the Lucian pick, I don't really think they had in mind that they were going to be playing an AP Kog'Maw composition at the start of Champs League. So this seems like a Hail Mary almost.
It seems like they're picking each lane on its own.
Yeah.
Being like, okay, what do you want to play top? Okay, you like to play big tank, so you get the Nautilus. Bottom lane here, what can you survive the lane with? Okay, Lucian for you, and then comfort pick for PowerOfEvil. It is a traditionally good pick into Azir. Like, long-range poke is good against him, but the rest of your composition is not long-range. You have the lowest range AD carry, Alistar melee range, Nautilus melee range, so everything else is diving onto Fnatic, and that's where Azir shines in, like, cutting around and constantly laying down consistent damage.
Gentlemen, the picks and bans are in for the first match in this best of 5. Daylor and Sheepy shaking hands. It's time to get on the Rift and find out who will be the first European team for Worlds.
We are beginning to discover a style that's very more methodical and strategic oriented, and Horo helps a lot with that.
That's a 3-man knockup! Horo goes huge!
I'm really happy he's come back EU LCS. It's really lucky because we meet on semi-final, so someone have to lose.
I'm pretty excited about it because they've been so strong. That was the biggest test against Fnatic.
And it's time for the second summer semi-final between spring finalists Fnatic and the Unicorns of Love. Game 1, and Fnatic are bringing all of the damages. Riven once again for Huni, and we're going to see YellowStar for the first time on that support Shen.
Yeah, we saw the flex pick for Fnatic, so at least they could try and counter pick one of the lanes, either mid or top. In this situation, they saw a tank top on the Nautilus. Huni is more than fine playing Riven into this, and then Riven and Elise together. That 2v2 skirmish is so scary for Fnatic.
Yeah, let's run over these compositions as we see the support duel for Ward Wars Part 1. I really like what Fnatic can do around objectives with their 4-man lineup while Riven is split pushing. I really like the control and zone that Azir brings to the table. You have a couple of catch potential with Taunt and Cocoon, and you can always engage super quick and disengage with On a Hunt, so that's fine. That leaves over Huni on his side lane, split pushing with Riven. Fantastic combination, especially if he can flank TP on deep wards.
And also when you have Shen as backup in case something goes wrong over that top lane. Fnatic really running a composition that can have extremely fast rotations. With that we mean basically your wave clear is so good in terms of how Sivir can walk down to a lane. A few seconds the wave is gone. Then she can move back to mid lane or to the dragon or whatever objective she wants to contest. Azir with Nashus, if he's building that, can do the same. So they can very quickly clear waves and then group together and let Huni, of course, split push on his own. And
that in turn creates just a lot of tempo. And if you have a lot of tempo in the map, then you can move around away from the Kog'Maw. We've seen when Unicorns of Love play this AP Kog'Maw, up until the 23-minute mark roughly, they have to play around mid lane all the time. If PowerOfEvil goes to bot lane to pick up some farm somehow, goes for a Gump to just finish that last item, so many times we've seen the Unicorns get engaged upon and straight up lose the game. So very predictable gameplay. And if there's any team in Europe that will exploit predictable gameplay, it is Fnatic.
And funny enough, week 1, first game, Fnatic Unicorns of Love, we saw the same kind of setup for Unicorns. It was PowerOfEvil who left that mid lane to pick up a wave. Baron was taken from Fnatic, as we normally see it, and instantly they just snowball the game out of control. They're looking to do the same. Elise is a fantastic jungler at early Barons as well, so look for that once we start hitting these 20-minute mark.
And for Reignover, he does have competitive experience on Elise in the LCK. However, that is a very long time ago, and it's the first time he's running it in the summer split. We will have standard lanes, Krepo, and the 2v2. Rekkles and YellowStar getting a trade into Hylissang. Vardags goes forward aggressively on a champion that's had no success in summer with only one single victory by Febiven.
Yeah, the fact that Rekkles managed to get that push going for him means that he can neutralize a lot of the aggression that Vardags can offer on the Lucian. If Lucian is pushing, then he can dash in aggressively, contest tier CS. Obviously, they can comfortably farm. These top laners, they were late to lane, because nowadays over in Europe and many different regions, what we see is junglers and top laners pairing up for the first 2 camps. Top laners tank it, leave the potions alive on the jungler, then base and teleport to lane. So overall, incredibly standard, sorry.
And that means if you look at the two junglers now, almost full HP and both of them because they didn't have to worry about these first few camps. We're gonna see this very often from Reignover when he's playing this Elise, invading into the jungle of Unicorns of Love, because right now, his mid lane is gonna shove the wave over and over and over in the early game on the Azir. Huni on the Riven is gonna do the same, so you have two lanes pushing in. That is very safe then for Reignover to invade, and therefore he can apply even more pressure on these two side lanes.
Yeah, and if he managed to do that all the time, getting not spotted by the enemy, that means Hora will have an incredibly hard time ganking, because he's always afraid of the counter gank. At least counter ganks are incredibly lethal. If you walk into a bush and she's sitting there with Cocoon ready, just turns the gank around right away, especially when your lanes are getting pressured and pokes. If Vardags has to commit to any play, he's already on half HP. Taunt Flash alone should be enough to kill him.
Half HP used the potion. Hylissang was looking for a play but didn't manage to connect the head buff at first. Look here again, Reignover. He's in the jungle of Unicorns, so they basically eliminate where can Horo be in the map, because we have a ward placed at the Raptor. We're gonna spot the Crooks as well, so there's basically only one place he can be. That's
He's playing reverse bingo jungle. That's what he's doing. Every time he's crossing something off, and then once he's got at least 4 camps, then he can yell bingo. He has to be at the 5th, or he has to be in my jungle. But Rek'Sai traditionally isn't a jungler that goes into the enemy jungle unless you've been spotted. Febiven will have to be careful though.
Let's find out. Very early flash. Horo does not follow. Summoner spell blown for Febiven in the mid lane.
You can just see the position for Febiven very far towards the top side. Now, this is one of the dives we also mentioned with Riven and Elise together.
Stun into Cocoon, Venomous Fang. Huni's gonna tank 1, 2 more turret shots before flashing away. Chachi's looking to get one back, will not find it. First blood Fnatic.
And traditionally, Elise will go in, tank the tower, repel up, and switch the aggro over. And that's the way you die. Fnatic say, okay, we don't even have time to do that. Horo comes in to try and catch Huni, but that's not gonna happen. Huni flashes out. If Vizicsacsi had a little more mana, could have had the first blood, but good dive, and that's what you have to avoid. That's why Elise was such a good pick when she was meta. She could always push and dive. Elise Renekton were the king of diving people, you know. Double CC lockup, there's almost no way to get out of that, barring a major screw up.
And one of the things we looked at in this matchup here again, how can Unicorns beat Fnatic? That's the question a lot of people are asking. One of the things we looked at was Horo maybe out-jumping Reignover, try and shut him down in the early game and use that to then camp Huni, because Huni traditionally is the only aggressive lane for Fnatic. We often see mid and bot lane play very risk-free. And then you would try and shut down Huni because he would play aggressive, you would win the 2v2. With Elise being a thing for Reignover, the fact he even got it in second rotation, that eliminates that option now. Because you know Fnatic is going to be stronger in that top side. They can go for these dives. And suddenly Huni now is going to have a fantastic game.
And with the first blood gold, Reignover's grabbed himself a Shen. So we'll see if he's going to go all in for the damage. For Huni, double Dorns, double Longsword, going to look to bully out Vizicsacsi. And the last time Huni played Riven was actually against Rocket a couple weeks back. And just the threat of Riven was comboed with some globals. They pushed side lanes so effectively. Huni basically just held a stick saying, I dare you to fight me, and it didn't need to.
Flash combo here coming in from Hylissang, but he knocks a creep.
That's not going to be good enough. We do see a taunt coming in from YellowStar. They've turned their attention to Hylissang. Huni is going to look for more. That's a kill there for YellowStar. They're going to continue to chase. Wind Slash into Cocoon. The volatile spiraling. Reignover's got a second of the game. The third of the game. A double kill. Fnatic 4-0.
You have such a long cooldown on that flash. If you're the Alistar, that's the way you can make that play and set up the gang. And he headbutts a minion, but you also see the reaction from Fnatic. Instant teleport from Huni, and Reignover was already on the bottom side of the map. So he was ready to counter gank, he was ready to dive. 4-0. 2k goal lead already. We're 7 minutes into the game.
Fnatic needed 21 minutes to beat Unicorns of Love in week 9, and they're off to a great start to try and match that record.
So Horror's lurking. Hylissang doesn't want to telegraph the gank. He wants to get the headbutt off before the spell shield, but he misses the W. The biggest thing is, look at the teleport. That's his Huni teleporting in. Where is Vizicsacsi? If you're setting up this play, this is something I've criticized the Unicorns for before. You have to be first one teleporting, but it's another fight.
Trouble. There's 3 people jumping onto him. Stand United's being channeled, and YellowStar's going to arrive. Wow, actually, this is the dash. And we did have to jump out of that replay early.
This is the same thing again. Fnatic's always ready to help the other lanes. There's almost no delay when it comes, okay, I need help. Somebody come here. Is it teleport? Is it Stand United from YellowStar? They're always ready to help each other. And this time, it wasn't a random play set up by the Unicorns. Horror's lurking. He's telling his team, I'm going to gank. Hylissang knows he's going to Q Flash. Vizicsacsi should always be there before Huni. And if he somehow didn't have teleport, we obviously don't know, perhaps it was on a few seconds cooldown still, then don't go for the play at all.
Now you have 4 assists on this Riven here. Trevor, you mentioned how it was played against Rocket. It's a game I think Steve want to forget. Because he was shut down by his own team in lane swap, and then he just got absolutely destroyed. A bit of a trade. Hylissang again is dropping low.
He's going to get away with 200 hit points. Rekkles forced low, but nobody goes down in that exchange.
But that engage from Unicorns, you're 100% correct, Krepo, on how they should be the ones who could telegraph that teleport before Fnatic. But it's really the style of Unicorns. Like, it's on-the-fly reaction, being like, okay, what's going to happen here? We're setting up, okay, there's an opening, I'm going to flash, and of course, flash Q him and try and set up the gank. It never really seems too coordinated, and that's really what can bite them in the butt.
Yeah, if we surprise ourselves, the enemy can't read us. That's kind of the mantra from the Unicorns. However, Fnatic reads the game. Even if you don't know what you're doing, they know what you're doing. Somehow, every time. That's why they win. 18-0.
Is this the sequel to Tower Dive #1?
Yeah, part 2. Hopefully this time Reignover will start tanking. It is so beautiful to see in the Elise dive. You know, Cocoon, tank the tower. Cocoon doesn't draw aggro, so you can even do it first.
And let's see how easily Chachi goes down. Huni tanks up, secures with a Wind Slash.
They keep doing the same setup, where they want Reignover to be able to deal maximum amount of damage, so he doesn't have to repel and reset tower aggro. So Huni just uses his mobility. Stuns him, 1 hit, and then he just dashes out and sits just at the range of where the tower is about to stop hitting him. He's just sitting right there waiting, so he cannot take any more hits, and then he steps out. So what can you do as a Nautilus in this situation? So little.
If you don't have flash and you have a model that's that big, that's that easy to hit with skill shots, there's almost nothing you can do, because you can see Fnatic as well. They drive you in the corner. They don't try to aim until you're next to a wall, and they eliminate 1 dodge path. And it's got to be easy for them to land these skill shots. Obviously, Cocoon doesn't even draw tower aggro, because you can even see if your stun connects first and then go in. So it deals 0 damage. Yeah, just clean ganks right now. Fnatic, 3,000 gold in the lead, and it's only going to get worse because the utility from the Sivir will soon get carried on to the team, and the utility from Lucian, well, it's non-existent.
And just going back to the play we saw in the bottom lane where Chachi didn't teleport, if you are in a losing lane, especially as one of these tanks with a lot of CC, it is very important you can utilize that global to try and help the rest of your team then get a lead. If you cannot win your own lane, TP down bottom lane, set up 2 kills for Vardags maybe, and then suddenly he can become a bit of a carry. If you fail to do that as well then just give Fnatic all the options to play out the early game.
And I just heard that this is the largest gold lead at 10 minutes for the entire split long. Fnatic looking to extend their winning streak, and we're seeing Horror on screen. All 3 of his lanes are being pushed at least somewhat. We've not talked about Febiven or PowerOfEvil a lot, but he needs to defend against Rekkles and YellowStar down bottom. He needs to save Vizicsacsi from Huni up top. Oro is being pulled in so many angles because Fnatic is dictating the tempo and forcing UOL to respond.
And add in the fact there's now a global as well. We saw the first gank in mid lane, YellowStar joined and stopped the whole thing. Bot lane is winning, so it's easy for Shen to transition that pressure to the other lanes. And really the thing for Fnatic is, the dives we've seen top lane, they've been risk-free. They've had vision in the jungle, they knew where Horror was, and it's just a free 2v1 dive.
But Deficio, that's Fnatic's style. Low risk, high reward versus the Unicorns of Love style, which, you know, we talked about a few minutes ago. If Unicorns are surprising themselves, then there's always going to be an inherent level of problems involved. Also, in the semifinals, you can't afford to headbutt a minion. The cost of that mistake could be felt. Huni threatening. Oh, he's going to go for the solo. Here comes the Void Rush. Huni's locked in trouble. He's going to tank up a few more tower hits. YellowStar was able to channel the Stand United. Now YellowStar wants to try get away. Flash and Ignite available. Just going to be the Stand United.
In the mid lane, we see Reignover paired up with Febiven as well, because he was shadowing that mid lane, allowing Febiven to comfortably push in. No risk of getting counter ganked. This frees up Reignover then to just join his team members in the top lane. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, comfortably on his own. Rekkles, because he's so good at playing safe regardless of what champion he's playing, and Sivir is probably one of the best champions to leave alone in the lane. Corki perhaps a close second with that ranged farm potential, so Fnatic is really good at redistributing their resources around the map.
And just a really good setup as well. If you notice, Vardags was back in base when this dive starts happening, so they're communicating from the bottom side, there's nobody here, Rekkles can push it in. YellowStar is free to roam, and then Huni goes for the dive, and again he saves his mobility to say, can I get the kill? No. Then I just start dashing out of the tower range, and I have backup already for my support, so I don't die.
And because of all of that reading, 2 more towers, or rather 2 towers picked up for Fnatic. Vardags trying to use the culling to put Rekkles under pressure. Rekkles will be able to clean out this entire wave. Has a CS lead, has a tower to fall back to, and Fnatic are just extending their gold lead.
The problem right now is Vardags needs the help of Hylissang, or he's at the risk of almost getting 1v1, it seems, in this lane. So Hylissang traditionally would base, ask Horror, where are you going? What lane are you ganking? Then he would follow Horror with those mobility boots. He hasn't even finished Titan yet. and they would somehow surprise the opponents. That's what they did previously in their games against Rocket. That's not happening because Horo has the weaker jungler. He's afraid to gank. He doesn't find an opening. Hylissang can't really roam because there's no dueling going on in the mid lane. So the only lane that is kind of gankable from a roam perspective is Nautilus, and that's incredibly hard to do against mobility from Riven. And on top of that, incredibly telegraphed against a team like Fnatic.
Yeah, and I hate to keep mentioning it, but that Shen is just gonna ruin everything for Hylissang, because even if he's setting up that roam, YellowStar can join in every time he wants.
That begs the question, would it have been wiser for Unicorns to pick up an early Elise, give away the Rek'Sai anyways, to at least have a stronger jungler, to set these plays in motion, get the momentum, and perhaps try and get a lead, because otherwise, if you counter it in your early to mid, it's going to be hard to beat Fnatic.
I definitely think Unicorn said, okay, for game 1, we're gonna test if Fnatic plays Elise.
Yeah.
We need to see if they're gonna pick it. So that's why they took the Rek'Sai to take away normally the #1 pick for Reignover and Fnatic and say, okay, what are you gonna pick? If he went Gragas, they're gonna say, okay, we don't have to worry about Elise in this series. Because it was locked in, it was so effective with the whole setup, Unicorns will have to adapt for next game in the pick and ban phase.
Well, we're 15 minutes into this game, and the general feeling is, how do Unicorns plan for game 2? Fnatic have picked up a dragon. They're invading Unicorns' jungle, and they are saying, this belongs to us. A repel away. Reignover's going to jump onto Horo. He's found an escape pod, and he's found support. A taunt onto Chachi, and the Emperor's Divide will split Unicorns of Love up. 5 members of Fnatic on the middle lane. They've got their 3rd tower. They've got their 6th kill. Yes, they've lost a member, but it may not matter. That's a double kill for Rekkles as they continue to chase. The boomerang strikes for another. And Fnatic set themselves up for another tower, this time in the inner lane.
And even a fight between 2 towers 15 minutes into the game, Fnatic managed to win it. 2 kills for Unicorns, they can be important. But really all they're waiting for is PowerOfEvil to hit level 11, get a loot in Zeko, and then try and group on him and see if he can poke up Fnatic. But there are going to be so many ways to engage.
But I mean, compared to what PowerOfEvil was running in that fight, now he finished his loons, but previously he was sitting on that ADC and the Tier and the Dorans. He had 40 ability power from his items. That's all he had in that fight. Compared to what Febiven was bringing to the table with that Nash's 2's finished already. Just, Unicorns are not using power spikes, they're not playing around the right people, they're not playing safe enough in the early game. The composition as a whole doesn't really make much sense around this Kog'Maw. You want to stall the mid game until you reach a comfortable position later in the game where Kog'Maw can poke. But your champions scream early action. You have base stats CC on your top laner that has to teleport. You have the most aggressive laner in Lucian, but they're not really using it. Let's watch that again though.
Yeah, so notice how rest of Fnatic is just taking down tower first, also so they can set up the Azir tower afterwards. We're fighting between 2 turrets at this point. And Unicorns are trying to get a collapse in. They have some good damage in the start, but now we get kite back. You set up the turret from Febiven, and this is why it stops for Unicorns, and they end up giving 1 more kill. But yeah, they have these champions who want to fight in the early game, but they don't have any winning lanes. Top lane, you're losing to the Riven. Bottom lane as well, the Sivir is going to constantly shove in the Lucian, and you're losing the jungle matchup one-on-one early on as well. So you might have champions who want to fight early on, and then one guy who wants to scale, but you're not stronger anywhere on the map for the first 15, 17 minutes.
Reignover almost gets caught out, but he has the support of Febiven. Being cheeky enough to steal away that large raptor. Fnatic are pulling 500 gold ahead every minute this game. They've built themselves up nearly a 9,000 gold lead. They've already got a dragon, so that ticker's going. And look at how aggressively Fnatic's playing in the enemy jungle. Their deep vision is fantastic. UOL need another 25 minutes before they can get themselves back into this game, and they're not going to get it.
And coming into the series, a lot of people were questioning Reignover's champion pool. Was it good enough? Can he play Elise? Is that where Horo is going to outclass him, outshine him? But so far, he has proven that he can play that champion. Open up the early game, couple nice ganks, couple nice dives. He's been dodging CC as well. Remember, he dodged that Nautilus ulti, then landed with the repel. Fantastic execution. And this will put Unicorns of Love back to the drawing board.
And the fact we also see Febiven play Azir as the only mid laner in Europe right now, it seems, it means that suddenly blind picking a Victor is still a strong pick, but Azir is good matchup into him. And if people wonder why Nash's Tooth as the first item, if you haven't seen it in some of the other regions, obviously with the fact that Azir lost his passive, his attack speed on his passive. You can move to his W, so you gotta rank it up, but you want to max Q first, so you need that attack speed somewhere else. At the same time, with the fact his E no longer knocks you up, his all-in potential has been limited, and therefore it's better to sit back and have that consistent DPS coming from
Put up those soldiers, couple around an objective, then start hitting away. Every time somebody enters your zone, you give him a whack, a couple of whacks on the face, they back off again. That's the way you play Azir. Eventually, you can go in for the Shurima Shuffle Light, this time without the knockup, but it's not the playstyle anymore. It's a lot more controlled, a lot more predictable in a sense, but it still does a lot of damage. Azir on 6 items is one of the biggest damaging mid-game carries right now, and he does it safely as well, because he can do it at a tremendous rate.
Oh, Vardags, you just got soloed. There was a taunt at the end, so that's not entirely fair. Minion wave is now being focused down. Fnatic have got Huni up in that top lane. Teleport is available. They shove the minion wave into the inner turret, and their gold lead is approaching 10k before 20 minutes. With Stand United up, with Teleport almost up, Fnatic are now playing the map.
And should this game have been even, Fnatic would have had an incredibly quick Baron nonetheless though. Elise, Riven, and Azir can easily take that Baron down while Sivir is distracting them if they find an opening. And that's the way Fnatic usually likes to play. If the games go hard or just don't really get a lead, they manage to find this ideal opportunity. They see it like 40 seconds ahead. If you play with any of the Fnatic members in solo queue as well, when you're basing, they will just say, okay, we can do Baron right now. And they'll always be right. So they have a really good feel of sneaking this Baron objective, and I reflected in the stats. 27 Barons in the splits, I think one at least every game. So that is one of the win conditions you simply can't deny Fnatic.
And it's just how good they are at setting up minion waves as well on the map. We talked earlier about how good they are at fast pushing waves with this composition. When you have a Sivir, when you have Nash's Tooth on and Azir, how quickly you're gonna shove at least 2 lanes, and that enables you to move into the jungle, set up that deep vision, or just look, oh, is Unicorn sitting back and like trying to wave play at a tier 2 tower? Well, we can now rush that Baron. It is a risk-free play because we can see them move in, and worst case, we just back away and we reset the whole map. So it's always these low-risk situations for Fnatic that they're very good at setting up.
Dragon number 2 easily secured by Fnatic. Unicorns, they need to keep scaling. They need to keep getting some farm and items. And for Fnatic, they need a little more respect now. They're pushing deep into UOL territory. The level of pressure has slowed down, but it is undeniable how limited Unicorns of Love options are.
I think what tells the story of Champs Select the best, and the way this early to mid-game has evolved, is the fact that Unicorns of Love have yet to take a single tier 1 tower. They haven't even crossed the river at all lately. Yes, they're so far behind right now, but early in the game, as Deficio was pointing out, that massive amount of wave clear, quick wave clear, easy wave clear, just gives you so much tempo. Fnatic manages to make plays while not losing any cross maps. Due to the double global that they're running with the teleport on Riven, with a high mobility aggressive jungler on Elise, and then obviously Stand United as like the worst case band-aid. Just, and solid draft from Fnatic.
The strong lanes, Reignover early on in basically saying my early game is finding Horo, and then we won't dive the top lane when I have a chance, when I know Horo's on the other side of the map. So the super control, things needs to change for Unicorns in that pick and ban phase. The problem is there's just so many picks for Fnatic you gotta consider now.
Also, just as a style, I don't think it's wise ganking a Sivir lane, ever. Even if you get 1 kill on her, you don't put your laner far enough ahead to be able to do something. She will still be able to wave clear, she will still bring that utility. Eventually, Fnatic will still take that Baron.
Wow, defensive play from Unicorns. Huni has TP'd into the pit. Sand Soldiers, they get commanded to go forward. Baron will get secured. It's actually Rekkles that secures it. Unicorns unable to contest. Fnatic have the earliest average first Barons in the entire league. Look at the itemization. Rylai's and that Nash's. Need to see large rod plus giant spelled Negatron for Reignover. There's damage, there's tankiness, there's Baron empowered minions, and the only wave clear that's safe is a culling and a living artillery, which is going to be so difficult to clear up Baron empowered minions.
Well, you can puke on them as well if you're PowerOfEvil, and that's about it. But it really speaks to the lane for Unicorns. If the best option or the safest option was to try and gank that Sivir lane and like try and gank the Shen lane and maybe shut down a global, because it couldn't go anywhere else. To go top, you die 2v2. Mid lane, we saw how easy it is for the Azir to just escape.
I think you could argue that he could go top and he should take that risk, as we see Vardags completely get annihilated here behind this tier 2 tower. Even if it's a risk at ganking the top lane, I feel bringing double CC towards a Riven lane, perhaps to shut him down. The only person that I've seen go down in these ganks so far for Fnatic entire season has been Huni. Unicorns of Love tried it the previous match as well, week 9 I believe it was.
Last game.
Or, yeah, the last game that they played, they tried to take him down. So, sadly enough, even 0-2, Huni will just teleport once and equalize that lead with a single teleport, but that has to be the approach.
That was the thing, how Unicorns could maybe try and win the early game was by shutting down Huni. still, to me, if you don't have a stronger 2v2, it's just too risky to do. We saw Reignover just camp that lane in Vizicsacsi. We've seen it before. Down again.
Yeah, 6 towers now, all outer turrets are down. Fnatic are using this Baron buff. We're only 23 minutes into the game, and they're in the bottom inhib turret.
Yeah, they're doing a 1-3 run, spreading out that Baron buff on all the minions everywhere. They're already so much stronger. Dividing the unicorns even makes it harder for them to come back, because in single numbers they can never beat their opponents, even with the help of the tower. Reignover's taking out the middle lane tower right now. Rekkles is hitting the top one. Riven on Huni is on the bottom lane tower. Unicorns, they don't know where to go first.
There's just too many things to do in UOL. They do not have the resources to deal with this level of pressure. Inhibitors being focused in the top lane by Rekkles. Febiven, he's moving in with the help of Reignover in the mid lane. Inhib down at 24 minutes. Fnatic, they're still not backing. Chachi throws out the Riptide, but that's not going to do a lot. Huni's got yet another tower. I do not think there is a better Baron efficiency team in the league than Fnatic.
Yeah, we tracked how much gold teams get after a Baron in the next 3 to 4 minutes, and out of those statistics also came that Fnatic is just incredibly good at getting more gold once they get that Baron, indicating that they do it at the right time in the game. But also, if you manage somehow to get a Baron against Fnatic, they pretty much won't even give you a gold lead. They'll even it out somehow by getting really smart cross-map objectives. So, all in all, Fnatic just the better macro team. And then how do you beat that? You kind of have to drag them into the chaos. That's what the plan was for Unicorns in the spring split, but their lineup doesn't scream chaos to me at all.
And it's not even been the style we've seen from Unicorns this split.
No.
I mean, it's not the cheesy picks still. We haven't seen like a Shaco jungle or whatever. We saw Poppy, yes, in the last game that didn't mean anything. They were already locked in 4th place. They have been more standard. Vizicsacsi in the feature coming into this game was talking about how Horo helped the team be more methodical, more strategic minded maybe. Not as cheesy crazy as we have seen before. So if we just look at a pick and ban phase, we're gonna have to talk over it after this game and see what they could change. Huni now is being chased by 5 people.
5 versus 1, flash over the wall. Huni even gets out. YellowStar decides to re-engage with the taunt. Vardags is just destroyed by Febiven. YellowStar's looking for more. That's a double kill. It will be 1 more for Huni as he decides to rejoin the rest of his team members. Exposed inhibitors. Horo, you're on the wrong side of the fountain. Goes down, 4 kills to Fnatic. There's super minions near the top lane. Reignover's going to get the ace. 16-2, 20,000 gold in the lead. And for the 19th consecutive time, Fnatic are the victors.
And I think we have said enough about this game already. Fnatic, so strong compared to Unicorns of Love.
Yeah.
Again, this has to go back to the pick and ban phase, and what can they change? The super smart thing Fnatic did was spanning out the safe mid laners from PowerOfEvil. So he didn't have the option with the champion pool we have seen from him to blind pick a mid laner and give Vizicsacsi the last pick to try and counter pick Huni, get the stronger 2v2 lane top. Instead, they had to lock in the tank. Huni went for the Riven, they had the Elise, and then suddenly it was just almost impossible for Unicorn.
Coming into this series, we already agreed, as we see the man of the hour, Huni, walking off the stage right there. PowerOfEvil has to pick more aggressive champions. He needs to find an opening in the mid lane, then transition that lead potentially into different lanes. If he's the one leaning back, saying, okay, my lane, nothing gonna happen. If bot lane are notorious for going neutral on both sides, that leaves you in a 1v1 scenario where you need to get ahead of Huni. Stylistically, thematically thinking, that is not the right approach. I would have loved to see an Ahri or something aggressive. Hell, even a Relia mid into this Azir, something that can break open this matchup somehow and win the early game, because otherwise Unicorns will have a repeat scenario in games 2 and 3 of this series, and we might be home very early tonight.
But for the entire split, they've been practicing this style, where they played a late game scaling on PowerOfEvil. He now had a week to adapt, and Unicorns as a team has not shown a lot of adaptation over the entire split. But yeah, maybe we're going to see like Syndra come out and they just try and
we'll have to find out. A little bit of lane strength might be the key. You guys said they were to test the waters. Let's see if Reignover plays Elise. The answer is hell yes, he can play Elise. We're going to head to the analyst desk to find out more about game